Hey everybody, it's Joe. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Saab Doctor. Today we're going to be doing unboxing of most of the stuff that I bought for the lime yellow convertible. We're going to be doing the radiator and condenser in it, and pretty much anything else we need to do before taking it into the body shop to actually have the bumper painted. I take the car to the body shop because then they actually color match the car, so then the bumper will look 100% perfect. So anyways, let's get to doing some unboxing. Stay tuned. Before I start unboxing anything, I want to take a second to thank Saab Parts. They're actually sponsoring the repair and the rebuild of the front of this car. Now that doesn't mean all the parts are free, but that means that they may have hooked me up on a few things. So huge shout out to them. They've been a huge sponsor of this channel, and I really have to thank them for everything that they've done. Just remember, links are down below for Saab Parts. Yeah, let's get to unboxing. Now, you are going to see a few things that didn't come from Saab Parts, and that's just because Matt over at Saab Parts is so transparent with his customers. He actually told me, hey, you know, don't get these from me, get these somewhere else, because the OE ones versus the OE, you know, the exact same part from the OE manufacturer from somewhere else might be less expensive. So, you know, that's one huge plus. Anyways, I'll stop rambling. Let's go open some box. Alright, so the first box we're going to open is from Saab Parts. I don't remember what this is, but I think I've got an idea. Alright, so, if you didn't know, Saab Parts carries DO88 hoses. I ordered the full radiator hose kit for this car because you have to remember, it's 15 years old and they're made of rubber. The car's from Florida, so this will be a huge upgrade. Perfect, alright. Let's open the next one. This is also from Saab Parts. I mean, this is partially for this project. Here's some convertible top fluid. That's actually a part for the 94X, so we'll put this back. Alright, next up, let's open up these two FCP Euro boxes. One's going to be a condenser, one's going to be a radiator. One of the reasons I went with FCP Euro is because they do have a lifetime warranty and because these are OE brands. So, you know, I figured that was the best way to do it. Plus, you know, Matt suggested, hey, grab these from those guys just because lifetime warranty. So, let's open it up. Alright, and I did grab a thermostat, a temp sensor, ambient air sensor. So I have the front air sensor, I have a new thermostat and a new temp sensor. Anytime that the cooling system is open, I always replace the thermostat and the temp sensor. Just good, you know, good housekeeping. And I'm going to assume this is the radiator. Actually not sure. Alright. This is not the radiator. Okay, this is the AC condenser. And one of the other reasons why I grabbed this one is because it came with the AC dryer as well. So when the AC system's been open, you're going to want to replace your AC dryer. So that means the other one is the radiator. Is this tweaked? We're gonna have to look at this closer. I actually think this. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a peek at this. All right. All right. Now let's open what I'm going to assume is the radiator. This is just a gigantic box. Oh yeah. This one was actually shipped quite a bit better. Yeah, this is shipped quite a bit better than the condenser was. This is actually like tied down, but I think that's just how Nissan's does things. Cool. All right. Let me organize everything quick and see if that condenser is back. All right, the condenser is a little little bit out of whack, but I'd say it's within acceptable range. So we're going to try running this. Hopefully there isn't a problem with it, because pulling it out will be a pain, but the good part is it's a lifetime warranty. All right, now that I've got everything laid out here, time to get to work over there. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is remove the overflow cap. You know, in this instance, it's not going to make a difference because all of the coolant's already drained. Then remove your engine cover. Alright, now normally you'd remove the battery cover at this point. I already did that because the car's been sitting, so it has a tender on it. And you want to remove the battery duct, so that gives you a little bit more space in this area here. At this point you need to remove the hose clamp from the charge air pipe. I personally like to use a 7mm ratchet just because you can get in there easier, it's a bit more precise. Some people will do a screwdriver in here, but that's not my thing. You make sure it's loosened up enough, and with the age of these, sometimes it takes a little bit of finesse. And sometimes when finesse don't work, a little hook pick works magic. One thing I'm definitely going to say, and I'm going to bring you in for this one, is I probably should replace this, because you can start to see like how checked this hose is. Now you got to remember, this is 15 years old. It's pretty hot underneath here, so I should probably actually order the DO88 kit for this to replace this one, but for now we're just going to leave it alone. I have a couple spares if things go horribly wrong. So after you remove that, what you're going to want to do to give yourself some space, if you look down, hard to see, but if you look right there, this is a hold down for the charge air pipe. You're going to want to remove that hold down next. I'm going to go on a limb and say that's probably a 10 mil. All right, now you'll see this is all loose. It's exactly how we want it. Make it a whole lot easier. Then last but not least, before we go underneath the car, I want to undo the connector on this sensor right here. Of course, don't forget to put it back on. So yeah, that's the end of like making this completely loose, since now that bolt is out. So at this point, normally you would jack the car up. We've already done that. And normally you'd take off the under tray, which, yeah, that's gone. Okay, let's get underneath the car. All right, let's get underneath here. Okay, so normally, hang on, let me get some light. Okay, so now normally what you'd do is you would drain the radiator. The radiator petcock is over here, right here on the passenger side, or the right side. So you can see that there, this radiator is very empty because it was cracked right there. So we don't need to do that. What we do need to do is we need to disconnect this charge air hose. So we'll do that first. So what I'm going to do right here, just because of how taken apart everything is, I'm actually going to pull this panel off, because then I can get at everything on this side a little bit easier. That should be a 10 mil. Yeah, let's just use this. It's 1,000,000 feet long. This is the beauty of buying cars from not in the Rust Belt. I'm in Wisconsin, this car is from Florida. Everything comes apart nice and easy. All right, so now you can see where that charge air hose is. We're actually gonna just undo this side of it, undo this clamp right here. That's gonna be a 7 mil on the quarter drive again. All right, now I normally loosen these up a lot more than they really need to be, just because I wanna be cautious with it. That's probably good. Then after we loosen that up, there is, let's see if I can see it right here. Okay, it's actually right here. So let me grab a light. So if you see that bolt right there, just going to undo that, that's a 10 mil. What that does is that holds that hard charge air pipe in place. And then what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to pull that out of the top to make, more space to get the fan out. Another thing that would be really useful at this point is a swivel, but I'm just not going to use one of those right now. Alright, so that's loose. And one thing to remember is, while you're doing this, you may end up creating yourself some boost leaks. So, if all of a sudden you start having issues with turbo pressure after this, just, you know, check everything. There we go. Alright. And that's loose. That can go out through the top. There. Now we've got more room. So you can see that's already starting to make it so, you know, this will be a whole lot easier to get this fan shroud out. Alright, now we're on the passenger side. We're pretty much going to repeat what we did on the other side, because we're going to need to get the AC dryer, which is in this area, and this is actually broken and needs to be removed anyway, so we can replace it. And I'm just going to undo this charge air pipe right here with my trusty 7mm again. Now we'll be able to get to the receiver, which is right here. This needs to be unbolted from the radiator. Now the cool thing is, we're going to be replacing this anyways with the condenser, so it's kind of making it a little bit easier on us right now. Okay, so the AC dryer is right here. There are 2 screws right there. They are T20s, so that'll be nice and easy to remove. Just make sure, get a pretty long extension. Make sure to save both your screws. I need to find the other one because it seems to have fallen into the abyss. Got it. Alright. So next up I'm going to undo this clamp right here. The clamp on the radiator is actually down here, which is a little tougher to get. Fortunately, I'm replacing all of this mess because I have the DO88 kit. So if something goes horribly wrong up here, it's not a big deal. I'm going to be using a angle pliers. One thing I'll note is, if I wasn't using the DO88 kit, I would have bought the Krona T to put in here, and I will put a link for the Krona T down below in the comments. So over to the other side of the radiator, we're going to detach this expansion tank hose right here. Once again, just going to use an angle pliers for that. Let's see if I can do this and hold the camera. That might prove a little difficult. Well, I mean, I'm not guaranteeing that the camera is going to stay in the right spot, but come on, sneak off there. There we go. Alright. Now that expansion tank hose is off, once again, another hose that I believe gets replaced with that DO88 kit. Alright, so at this point, grab your T20. I finally grabbed a swivel and an extension, because what we need to do is we need to get... oh, this is going to be upside down. Hang on a second. Okay. So we need to get is this bolt, this screw right here, that's a T20 Torx, and that one, whoa, where is it? Come on, right there that you see hiding. Those two hold the fan in, so those will be the next two to come out. Unfortunately, there isn't a very good camera angle for this, so this is what you get. Try maybe adding a couple more extensions. This is kind of, you know, tough spot. Whoa, I'm kidding about that being a T20. These are a T25. All right, and luckily I caught that before I ruined it too much. These are a T25, not a T20. All right, now at this point, the fan shroud is loose. All right, now here's where we start getting into some accident damage that I didn't notice. So, this is on the top of the radiator support, right there. I did not notice that radiator support was bent up that far, and that this was broken. So when that got hit, this bent up. So, what we need to do next is remove bolt here, and there should be a second bolt. Hard to see, maybe there isn't. Oh, bolt here, and there's a bolt here. We need to remove these on both sides because that holds the radiator support and everything in. So it's this bolt back here and that bolt down here. Those are going to be 10 mil. There seems to be a bit of energy stored in this metal on this side. This is the bent one. Now I probably won't be able to, yeah, because these are shaped differently. Yeah, it's not going to help me any. I was going to say, because they're left and right, I won't be able to like line them up and figure it out, but I'll have to tweak this right one to make it fit back in place. Okay, so at this point, the whole condenser intercooler radiator pack is loose, which is good because here's the thing. If we were just replacing the radiator, I'd grab a strap, I'd strap this up, we'd hold all these things together. However, since I have to replace the condenser too, that's going to make it a little bit easier. So, I'm going to get the radiator and that's going to drop out through the bottom. And then after the radiator's out, I'm going to take the condenser out. So, let's see how this works. One thing I am going to do though is I am going to just grab a bungee cord and strap up the fan. But I might wait to do that. I'm going to assess this from the bottom first, but my plan is I am going to strap up this fan so it's not in my way. Alright, so next up we are going to remove the lower radiator hose right here. And I'm accessing this through the driver's side fender well. Now, I'm probably going to have to finagle around with the charge air hose a little bit. I'm not comfortable with how much I'm bending this. I'm just going to remove this charge air hose. It's going to be the easiest way of doing this. I mean, I understand that this is made to be flexible and it's flexible rubber, but it's also 15-year-old rubber, as we saw above, and I just don't want to cause more issues. Alright, I didn't think there was going to be anything in there. And I was pretty much right. Okay, so we'll go back up to the top side. All right, now on the top side, these are going to be hard to see. Let's see. On the top side, remove these first, if you can. And then you see it right back underneath there. There is a screw. Those need to be removed because that's what holds the radiator to the rest of the pack. And we aren't dropping the entire pack right now. Here, the perfect example is going to be over here where the one's broken off. Remove those. So we'll take those off. Those are probably, once again, T25 would be my assumption. And I'll see if I can lean this back far enough to remove this. It's not gonna be a little obstinate, so. Alright, we'll get this done. We always do. Everything always gets fixed in the shop. The cars don't win. Say this though, for me at a minimum, it would probably have just been easier to drop the entire condenser pack. We're just going to drop the whole pack. That's going to be a whole lot easier. Alright, so at this point, drop the whole pack. All we are going to need to do is add disconnecting the condenser lines. So there's one there, one here. And then I should be able to drop the entire pack. Now, one thing to do before you do anything with AC is make sure your system is discharged. So this one, I know that from the accident, it lost its Freon, but I always just like to hook the gauges up just to make sure. All right, now I use an actual set of gauges for this. What I do is hook it up. So, high side is up here. The low side is down here by the filter. Now here's why I always hook it up. So this should not have a charge, however the gauges are reading. So then I believe this is just going to be a little bit of extra air in the lines, because I did check this a few days ago. I always just open it up just to let out any extra air that might be in there. You can see it going down. If you have an actual like gauge set, use that, like actual recovery machine. I'm actually really surprised that this is holding any pressure. But I like doing this because it's better than getting, you know, a bunch of pressurized air in your face. And then, yeah, it's already drained down, as you can see, so that means there was nothing in there. So at this point, just take these back off, close these up to make sure that, you know, when you're, you know, using the gauge, which we're going to have to do to recharge it. So when you're using the gauge, you don't accidentally start off with it open. All right, so we'll start off by removing the lower one. Which means that this AC system was serviced at some point. That would have been prior to our ownership, because I have never had to service the AC system on this car, surprisingly enough, until now, for obvious reasons. Alright. Lower one's off. Let me grab the upper one. That one I'm just going to grab a ratcheting wrench for. Alright, I needed something with a little bit more ability to get in there. I decided that I'd rather use this than a ratcheting wrench. So here, may as well show you what I'm doing here. So there is the socket right there. And might have to edit that a little bit. Okay. Alright, now that's loose, which is good. Okay, now since this is a manual transmission car, at this point everything is loose. Everything can come off pretty easy. All we have to do is undo these radiator pack holding brackets, this and this. Those are a couple of external torques. Everything will drop down. Now I am going to have to undo. Ooh, sheesh, this is going to be a terrible video. I'm going to have to undo this bracket, which is fine because this bracket and that bracket need to get replaced anyways. So those will be pretty simple to do. And actually, I don't think I'm going to undo those brackets. I think what I'm just going to undo is I'm going to undo the line. Yeah, I'll just undo the lines here and here, and I'm going to leave these two brackets on. These are 10 mil. 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil. Everything's a 10 mil. You could pretty much take this car apart with a 10 mil if you really wanted to. That's completely loose, which is perfect. Now this, I'm going to grab a bungee cord and bungee that up. All right. And then instead of dropping the pack right now, I'm actually going to wait until after dinner. So I might be wearing a different shirt. Just hold tight. Future Joe in a moment. All right, so I thought I was gonna, you know, grab dinner and change, but I just grabbed dinner. So anyways, E14 external torque. We're going to remove the two bolts that hold the radiator and condenser pack in. We're gonna drop it down. So let's get it done. Still cooling in here. Oh yeah, they're still cooling in there. All right, whoops. That's fine. These pull off anyways. There we go. Just pull those off. Entire pack out. May have made a little bit bigger mess than I expected though. Alright, so at this point what we have is we have the full pack, so you've got the condenser in front, the sandwich in the middle is the intercooler, on the other side is the radiator. So what we're going to do, we're going to take it, we're going to unbolt everything, we'll check out the intercooler, which I'm hoping is fine, because I didn't order a new one, and then we'll put it all back together. Now this should be pretty easy, it should just be a handful of T25 Torx in the top, and these should all pull off of the intercooler in the middle. So let's get her done. I'm gonna say I'm really impressed with how hard of a hit this intercooler took, that it didn't crack and it's showing no signs of damage. Now I will say this, the car still boosted fine after the accident, which was one thing I told my wife to check on her ride home. So I think we got lucky on this one. You know, I was going to just replace it for the hell of it, but I think we're alright. So let's take a look at the condenser and the radiator. So we will start with the radiator, which is the obvious one with damage. If you remember, it is very cracked right there and leaking, and this is definitely shot. So this is an obvious one. Now I left the upper hose on because we have the DO88 kit. I don't need that hose for anything, so let's throw this off to the side. However, before I get a little crazy, we need to save this. I do believe that this is already on the new radiator, but just in case, I'll have to take a look for that first. Then we've got the condenser. Yeah, it's hard to tell, but that's not straight at all, not even close. So, luckily we got a replacement for this as well. Now we'll rebuild the radiator pack, which isn't that tough, just the radiator on the front and the condenser, or sorry, the radiator on the back and the condenser on the front of the intercooler. Slide right back in where it came from. Also, one thing that I will note is right now the receiver dryer is still in the car. We're going to have to pull that out before we are able to put this all back in. Actually, I'm going to have to very gently bend this up, because the one in the car is about 90 degrees of where this one is. Worst comes to worst, we have to reuse the one that's currently in the car. I have a feeling that this was actually put here for shipping, because shipping this in an upright position would be a problem. Probably would have been smarter if they just didn't have it hooked up, but you know, I don't design this stuff, so. Like we're going to need a bit of adjustment while we're at it. Perfectly fine, because as you'll be able to see, this tab is not bent flat, and that one's just a little bit off. It's taken a little bit more work than I expected for, you know, an actual OE supplier part. But it fits, so I'm not complaining. Now just remember, if you're doing this, small tab, not hard hit. Alright, now that lines up perfect. Alright, so the condenser's all ready. Now it's time to get the radiator all ready. Alright, there are some bent fins on the top here. At this point I don't have too much of a choice, so we're just going to run it and hope it's okay. I don't see this actually truly being a problem, but... What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get the AC dryer lined up. My guess is that it should be up through this hole, which I might be wrong, but we're going to just give this a bend forward. Should be right about there. We'll do this for sure. This is more difficult to do on a table than it is to do in the car. Oh well. There we go. Things I do for the sake of getting it all on video. I will say this, I'm not very impressed with the screw mountings in this Nissan's radiator, because almost none of them are the right size. They're all just a little too big. Alright. So the radiator pack is done. I'm going to just throw these back on the top. I need to grab the other one, put it over here. I need to get that chunk out of it that's in it. And then we'll get this back in. Just so everyone knows, one thing that I was looking at is on the ends of the radiator you have this like little piece. Now this one's partially broken from the accident. However, those rubber pieces sit in this. I'm just going to figure out how to get these off of here and just slide those on there. Should be pretty simple. My guess is you just lift up on this tab right here and then it slides off. Yep, that's exactly what you do. You just lift up on this little tab here, right there, and then it slides right off of here. Nice to there we go. Perfect. I'll grab the other one off. Grab the other one off the old radiator. I didn't think that the radiator fit, these pieces fit too good without that. I guess we'll find out. When we put that all back together. Alright, so since we've already installed the dryer on the new assembly, I'm just going to remove it from here. This is just a 13 millimeter. Oop. Trying to keep my hands out of the way. Really simple, just remove the nut and then pull it off. Make sure not to lose the O-ring. There is an O-ring. The O-ring is right there. So make sure not to lose this O-ring. Alright, now with the dryer out of the way, this all put together, let's hoist this back into place and start reassembling it. Hopefully, I mean, the reverse should go a bit easier than taking it apart. The only things we have to do that are going to take a while are probably bleeding the cooling system and The only things we're going to have to do that are going to take a minute are going to be bleeding the cooling system and adding antifreeze. Or the only things we're going to have to do that are going to take a minute are going to be bleeding the cooling system and adding Freon. And I might not do those in this particular episode just because maybe adding Freon should be its own thing, because there's kind of a process to it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyways, let's get this thing back in. Of course, we're trying to bend to the minimal amount of fit. Okay, so I actually turned the camera off for a minute because I had to make some adjustments. This piece right here is bent pretty far back. I thought I ordered one, but I can't seem to find it. So I'm just going to take that, bend it down so everything fits, because right now it's not quite fitting 100% right yet. This is kind of what you run into with cars that have been in accidents. There we go. All right. I had to kind of tweak a couple things up here around. Perfect. All right, now that's all back in the right spot. You can tell it's sitting down, so we'll start bolting everything back together. All right, so what I'm going to do before anything else is I'm going to put these rubber blocks in, get these back in, so that way the whole radiator pack is solid mounted, and then we'll go from there. All right, so step one here is going to be getting the fan out of the way. Because right now it's just kind of floating around in here, and that's causing some issues. It's going to be really, really hard to get the camera in a good spot to see this whole fan thing, but... Alright, now let's put these top mounts back in. Fortunately, my light went out, so having you all under the hood is difficult right now. Alright, and a bit of an Easter egg that I just found out. Well, that's easy to get to when you have the front bumper off. Didn't know that. So I just learned something, so did you. Unless you knew that, which you probably did, and you know, I'm just an idiot, that happens. Anyways, so I got this side on, now I can get that side in, and we aren't even going to talk about the little dings up here and whatnot, because it happens. Radiator's all back in. That's a huge plus. Alright, so the radiator's back in. I'm going to do the oil cooler line next, which is super simple. Just reattach this. And then I'm going to start figuring out all the hoses, because I've got the DO88 kit. Never installed one on one of these. So we're going to figure that out together. One thing I'm going to add is we have to make sure to tighten these two down, because they are not tight. Alright, now I am about 90% sure I ordered this bracket. I just need to find it. I have no idea what happened to it. I'm sure it's in a box somewhere. I have like boxes of parts everywhere right now. I've got 2 bumpers, and I'll get into that story later. Alright, so I ran into some issues underneath there that I'm going to need to tap and die for with the 2 radiator mounts. One of them was just a little corroded, and you know, I probably cross-threaded a bolt. So I pulled the other bolt out. Unfortunately, I don't have the right tap in the shop, and I have bolts the right size, but they aren't the right length. So I'll just run to the hardware store, get a couple brand new bolts, get a tap, clean up all the threads tomorrow. Not a big deal. Let's open up these DO88 hoses, and then I'm going to call it a night, and we'll pick up tomorrow. Alright. Yeah, these all look like really nice quality. Now this is the full hose kit. I don't know that I'll actually end up using all of them right now. I Now I just want to do the main radiator hoses, and here's the one that replaces that coolant tee. So that makes life a whole lot easier. I don't have to worry about that anymore. But yeah, this is a pretty simple kit. I mean, just a handful of hoses. It's got the reservoir hoses and everything, so put these on tomorrow. And getting them in black was a good idea. I can't imagine any other color, so it'll magically be tomorrow. Alright, it's another day. Let me explain where I went wrong. When I went to put the radiator mount on the driver's side back in, which is where I actually cross-threaded a bolt, I did the upper mount first before I put the lower mount in. I thought the lower mount was already bolted, and it wasn't. So when I went to put the bolt went in slightly sideways. I was not paying attention because sometimes it gets a little late when I'm working on stuff. And that's when I stripped out, cross-threaded a bolt. So, have a tap, have 2 bolts, and we're going to get this done. And I'm going to replace both bolts with brand new 10.9 correct metric bolts, just with standard heads instead of those external torques. It'll make it easier. So let's just get it done and get this thing back together. All right. So to make it so this is significantly less problematic, I'm going to start off by taking out this top radiator mount, which fortunately is not all the way bolted down. All right. Now with this removed, I'll have enough space to be able to lift this up so the bottom isn't a problem anymore. So let's get down there and re-tap that. Just seeing how this aims on camera, I really need to get a different tripod. However, let's just get a little WD in there. Then honestly, this should just be like a little bit of thread cleanup and a little bit of just kind of straightening everything out. So all I did was put it in on an angle, so this should really just go pretty easy. The biggest thing here is, so the biggest thing here is just going to be making sure this goes straight. If it doesn't go straight, we are going to have some issues. This looks like it's going to go nice, perfectly straight, very, very easy through this. It's going to be like butter, hopefully. Now, the thing you have to remember is we're pretty much just, cleaning up the threads. Here's where I ramble. I'm probably going to be editing most of that out. Blah, blah, blah. Oh no, that's going to be actually really annoying. Because I'll go to edit it, and I'll see the waves, and I'll think I'm saying something useful. Alright, there we go. Now I think it's cleaned up right through all those threads. Now I like to run it in a few turns once it's nice and easy, just to make sure. Alright, and I can see it coming out the other end. Everything is looking nice and smooth here. You can see, pull out a little bit of metal there. If that focuses, I don't know if it will. Yeah, so pull out a little bit of metal. That's good, that means it's all cleaned up. I am just going to hit that with a little more WD-40. And then I'm going to take the new bolt. Just going to run it in there quick with my fingers. Make sure we don't have any problems. Oh yeah, that is smooth as butter. That is perfect. Now the thing I like about these, 15mm head, this will make it a whole lot easier just in case like anything ever happens where this needs to come back apart again. Hopefully it don't. Alright, now let's see if I can get this mount back in without screwing up this bolt. Now having the upward mobility that we didn't have last time is definitely going to help. That is where the biggest problem came in. So of course, make sure you don't have that top mount in before putting this bottom bolt in. Oh yeah, this is just going to slide right in there. Super easy, yeah. That was where I foiled my plot. I didn't follow my own steps. You know, probably grab the 15. All right, perfect. Bottom mounts are in. So now I'm going to do this top mount next. Just aim this up here. Do this top mount next. Then this will all be bolted in like it should be. And then I can start doing hoses and whatnot. Alright, so at this point, radiator is fully mounted. We're going to start hooking up all the hoses. Alright, so at this point, I'm going to do the DO88 radiator hoses. Now, the first one we're going to start off with is the lower hose, which goes down there, and it comes all the way up here and goes to the back of the engine. So this is actually going to be really, really hard to film. So, yeah, I don't exactly know how I'm going to film this, or quite frankly, how I'm going to get to this. Honestly, since I'm a little short on time today, because I need to get this done by tomorrow, I think I'm going to skip the DO88 hoses for the moment, and we'll cover those later. I think that's going to have to be the plan. Because I very unfortunately am not going to have enough time, because I've got to get back in here. That might end up being a winter project. Yeah, it probably will be. Alright, let's just put this back together. So I'm going to re-hook up the lower radiator hose, and then we'll do all the AC stuff. Alright, let's go. And holding this camera and doing this is probably yielding a terrible video. But right now it's kind of like you run what you brung. This is what I brung. There we go. Alright, so that's on completely. Perfect, alright. I'm going to pull this DO88 hose out of here because we aren't doing these today. Okay, so next up, I don't know if you can see it. Let me grab a light. Okay, next up, you see the. Let me just knock the light right into the path. See the AC dryer down here? I'm gonna get this line back on there, put the bolt on, or put the nut on, then that'll be good. So I'm gonna try setting this somewhere. Yeah, no, you're just gonna have to imagine what that looked like. Alright, so now that's all. Here, let me just get this light over here again. Alright, so now that's bolted on, nice and easy. Next up, I'm going to do the charge air pipe on this side to the intercooler. So that should be easy. I've already got this lower one. Oh no, this goes to the, this goes to the dryer. Where is that upper one? Did I do that already? I did not, but this is all lined up here. So you know what? I'm just going to do this one quick. That one should be relatively easy to get, which it probably won't be, but I guess we'll see. There is really no good spot to get that on camera. But the trick here is go up behind the crash bar and get to it there. So, because yeah, you can see my hand right here. So I'm just going to do that quick. I'm not good at holding this out there. Alright, now if you're just curious, kind of like what that looked like, just picture my hand in a spot where you can't really see it going like that for like 10 minutes and the look on my face being like this. So anyways, ratcheting wrench helped out a lot. Let's get the intercooler plumbing hooked up. Then we'll get the, I'm not good at this, upper radiator hose hooked up. And then the other intercooler plumbing and all that miscellaneous stuff. And then we can put some coolant in. So let's get that done. This shouldn't be bad. Biggest thing to remember at this exact moment is to make sure you put your hose clamp in the right spot and that it's tight enough. Okay, on this side we didn't actually remove the hose, just loosen up the hose clamp to try and get more space, which didn't end up helping out anyways. Alright, perfect. That's on. Now I just have to get the intercooler pipe, or the charge pipe, sorry, back in place. This will be super easy. Take it, run it back down, and you can actually pretty much hit the intercooler piping with it. Put this back over the throttle body, which might take a bit of doing, which is good, just for the simple fact that you want to make sure it seals. Thing to note, camera in here, is that once this is in here, you should be able to have this lined up with this top. So right here, you should be able to see that should line right up there. Of course, make sure to plug this sensor back in, and underneath here we're just going to connect this back up. This will be super easy, and then put this clamp back on. Alright, now one thing to note is when you're putting this intercooler piping back on the charge pipe, it has that notch. Let me just make sure I'm looking in the right spot. It has that notch right there. Make sure that notch lines up with the notch in the charge pipe. Then just tighten up your hose clamp and you're good. I'm just going to tighten this up a hair before I slide it up into place, just so it's a little bit easier up there. Well, let's get everything up top. And there's one on the side of this charge pipe, don't forget that. So we'll do that one next. Easily accessed from right here. So the charge air pipe's all in, all bolted down. Radiator hoses are all bolted down. Or radiator hoses are all on. Only thing that I think is left, and then I'm just going to kind of double check through everything, is... Alright, so the only things... Sheesh. This is going to be one of my worst filmed videos ever. Okay, so the only two things that I think are left: upper radiator hose, the short one, and the reservoir hose. So that should be it. Then we'll do a quick check. I'm not going to charge the AC tonight. I'll do that in another episode because that's actually a pretty time-consuming process, and I think it would make a pretty good episode. So here's what we're going to do next. We are going to reconnect the overflow, and that just goes right there. Then I have to grab the angle pliers quick. Alright, so that one's back on. Alright, so the reservoir is back on. Now let me grab the upper radiator hose off the old radiator. Wishing I had put this on before I put the radiator in right now. This is one of those moments where one of the remote hose clamp tools would come very much in handy. I never bought one of those. It's probably a mistake. I will put a remote hose clamp tool on the screen so you all can see what it looks like. This is also sometimes where having a few different sizes of angle pliers comes in handy, because sometimes you can finagle it with one where you can't with another. Otherwise, sometimes I will grab a needle nose and see if I can get it with that. I'm going to try that. That might work better. So here's the thing you have to remember. When we're all working on these cars, it's only hand tools. However, the dealer tech that was trained to work on these probably had about $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 worth of tools at their disposal. So they definitely had a whole lot more, invested in tools than most of us do. I'm actually going to move this one into place. See if I can line it up. There we go. It's on. So, I'm just going to throw these caps on for the moment. These are the AC caps. Now I'm going to note one thing. I did not replace the thermostat and temp sensor like I said I was going to. The reason I didn't is just because of the timeline right now. If for some reason the car is having issues, either overheating, which hopefully doesn't happen, or not getting up to temperature, I will do that in the future, and I have those parts. Normally I would have, but like I said, just right now with the timeline, with running into some issues, just need to get it done so we can get it to the paint shop. Because we have an appointment tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., and it's 11 p.m. right now, approximately. So let's get some coolant in it. Let's get it started. Let me get the nose down first, and we'll see what happens. And before I forget, tighten the clamp on your charge air hose at the throttle body, because I did not. That's why you do a final check over everything. That was the first thing I checked, funny enough. Final check complete. Gonna let it off the jack stand. Alright, so at this point I'm going to start pouring all the antifreeze in. I'm going to pour in slowly through here. I am using any make, any model, pre-diluted, which here everybody's going to give me hell for that. I should have just bought Dex Cool and full strength, but sometimes you mess up and you need things at a moment's notice. I bought this right before Walmart closed tonight because I forgot I was doing a project. Alright, let's get this done. Now, I'll be honest, of all the systems I've ever had to bleed, the Saab system is one of the most forgiving that I've had. So, I normally just fill her up, and then some bubbles will come out. Sometimes I'll, squeeze the lower radiator hose a handful of times, because that'll help circulate some through. But it looks like actually doing pretty good right now. So I'm gonna grab another gallon. We'll pour more in. Alright, right now it seems to be holding pretty steady where it is, even when I'm pumping the lower radiator hose. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start the car, let it circulate a while, let it warm up a bit, and we'll just add as we need to and see if anything goes wrong. Alright, at this point there's no leaks, and I'm going to let the car get up to operating temperature and just kind of see what happens. Now the reservoir is a little bit overfilled, and I kind of expected it to either be overfilled or right around where it needed to be. Now I'll drain some of that off, of course, if it is truly overfilled. But I've got the heat going. The car is going to be a little bit mad because it doesn't have an exterior temperature sensor right now, which if you were doing this, like a radiator replacement on your own car, I'd suggest hooking up everything as it's supposed to be before starting it back up and testing it and whatnot and driving it anywhere. But like I said, this car is going to the body shop tomorrow, so they can properly match the bumper to the car. So we're going to be driving it without an exterior temperature sensor for a minute. So just hold tight and we'll get back when, well, I'll get back once this thing warms up a bit and I have a better idea as to whether we're gonna have issues or not. Great news, the Dacia Ascent, wait, no, wrong show. Great news, no leaks, and it is still slightly overfilled. However, I thought the thermostat wasn't opening, or I'm sorry, was sticking open, but it's not. Car is actually getting up to temperature, no problem. Might not have to do a thermostat and temp sensor, so that's a huge plus. One thing I did do was I did overfill it, so I'm going to have to siphon some off. Easy enough, put a hose in, get some vacuum on the hose, dump it out. It's only 5 or 6 ounces, so I might just leave it a little overfilled, but it's not a big deal. So that's where I'm going to call the episode. You know something? I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and Saab on, folks.